Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Mental Training Thursdays. I'm Dr. Rachel Walker. I'm the Director of Psychological Health and Performance.
Hi, everyone. I'm Dr. Mac Brown. I'm the Assistant Director and Training Coordinator at Psychological Health and Performance. And this week, our topic is going to be about accepting the mind. So, that's about just being able to acknowledge what is there and present for you and being able to let things go that might not be helpful to you. So before we dive into that, we did want to answer one of the questions that was brought to us. So.
All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Chris Thomas. I'm our Clinical Data and Administrative Specialist here at PHP. Last week's topic was on the power of self-talk. And we did have a great question that an athlete brought up, which was, what happens if you can't think of a helpful phrase or statement to refocus on when those ants are present? So Mac, would you be able to first refresh us on what ants are, and then on any tips on what to do if you cannot think of a helpful phrase?
Absolutely. So great reminder, if you haven't been on one of the previous calls, ANTS is an acronym for automatic negative thoughts. And there are times where we have those that are present in our minds. So if you aren't able to find some type of helpful phrase or statement, it might be because this is a new skill that you're learning to develop. So much like when we're first practicing and learning a new sport, a new skill in our sport, it takes time. It doesn't just come right at the first instance of learning. So sometimes you just need to take a little more time to practice and rehearse that skill. And so it might be a helpful tip to think about a phrase that could be powerful and moving and positive for you that can help you when that negative self-talk comes up to then use in those stressful times. It can be challenging to think of those on the fly when you're in that stressful situation to begin with, but if you've rehearsed and practiced it outside, then it'll be a lot easier to pull in those instances. Rachel, other thoughts that you have or other tips that you could think of?
Yeah, I think the other piece that you kind of alluded to in your tips is it can be helpful to try to think of things that you're grateful for, which then can get into that positive mindset. And we are going to, in a couple of weeks, I think a few weeks, we will be doing a mental training Thursday on the power of gratitude. So look for that. The other piece to it is, if you can't think of positive self-talk or positive power phrases like I will, I can, I am, outside of those stressful environments, try thinking of even just neutral statements, things that might help you to just try to bring it back to the present moment, to ground you a little bit more. And one way to do that is by practicing some breathing exercises outside of those stressful moments, so that when you do get to a stressful moment, you can draw on, for instance, diaphragmatic breathing to help kind of reset and create a little bit of space with those ants that might help you to, one, be more present focused, and then focus on those helpful self-talk statements, and let go of those unhelpful ones. And I think the other piece to remember is the more you practice it, right, the easier it'll get. And so the more that you start to train your mind to focus on those helpful statements, or maybe at the beginning it's a neutral statement and then a positive statement. Last week we mentioned whatever fires together wires together. So that's just a nice way of thinking of it. The more that you can train the positive side of things and that mental muscle to refocus on those things, the easier it'll be, because you're strengthening that neurological part of your brain.
Great, thank you so much. And just as a reminder, anytime you have any questions or want any additional advice or tips on our topic, just email me, mac.brown @colorado.edu, and we'll spend the first few minutes answering any of those questions. So I'm going to kick it back to Rachel, who is going to introduce us to our topic today before we jump into a skill for it.
So as evidenced by what we just answered with the questions, last week we talked about the power of self-talk. And this week, we're going to continue to focus on what's present in our minds and create space for our thoughts, or create space from those unhelpful thoughts. So I just mentioned, like if you're having a hard time refocusing on helpful thoughts when you get caught up in the ants, maybe trying to create a little bit of space in your mind before you refocus. So today we're going to be talking about accepting the mind, and we're going to do an exercise that will hopefully demonstrate a little bit about how we put power to, sometimes we get caught up in those ants, which is completely normal, and we give them so much power. And so the exercise hopefully will demonstrate one way, kind of a fun way, I like to think, of how to create a little bit of that space. Because being able to cultivate an accepting mind, no matter what's showing up, right, can help you manage any reactions that you have in those moments. So even if they're uncomfortable, it'll allow you to just sort of notice, let go, refocus.
Thanks, Rachel. So I'm going to lead us through an exercise that's called Lemon, Lemon, Lemon. And I'm going to have Rachel demo for me when we're ready. So this is something that you can use in practice using any noun, but for this exercise, the noun we're going to use is a lemon. So if I said the word out loud once or twice, lemon, lemon, you might notice things that show up in your mind as I say that word, things like different images of what a lemon looks like, or the way it might smell if you had one. You might even notice getting that kind of clawing, tingling in your mouth as you were thinking about what it tasted like. And you might also have some particular memories that are attached to that noun, to a lemon. I know for me, I think of a lemonade stand for whatever reason. So Rachel, if you would demonstrate what it would be like to repeat that noun, lemon, over and over as fast as you can, and we'll just have Rachel do it for a couple of seconds just to get an idea so that you all can practice this yourself. So Rachel, would you demo how to say this lemon word a couple times fast?
Lemon, 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 lemon.
Perfect, thank you. And as you all noticed, you know, it can sound pretty funny to say it that fast that many times, but for the purpose of this exercise, and since we're recording this, we're going to give you 15 seconds of quiet time where I'd like all of you, since all of you have your, you know, audio on mute, is to just take the next 15 seconds to say lemon as fast as you can, as many times as you can, and then we'll talk a little bit about what that did for you. So, ready, go. And stop. So you might find that as you're doing that, maybe a couple of giggles, maybe a couple of stumbling over your words. But when you run through that exercise with any word, and that can be a substitution for just something random that we just brought up, like a lemon, and you could switch that with a word like bad or incompetent, or, you know, any of those words, or it could even be phrases like bad teammate. If those are things that are present in your mind, a skill like this is something that you could use to help realize that it's just a sound, it's just a word, it's just something that's vibrating, but it doesn't actually have to have a lot of meaning to it, because as you might have experienced running through that exercise, the more you repeat the word over and over again, the less the word actually holds any meaning, the less reaction you have to it. It just becomes this sound. So Rachel, other thoughts on this exercise or other tips?
Yeah, I think, you know, if you were to try the exercise again outside of this session, if you just said lemon, like what Mac did at the beginning, maybe a couple times, like lemon, lemon, and really notice what came up for you in those moments, probably a strong image, like Mac had an experience of a lemonade stand. Maybe you even notice the texture of a lemon, or the sourness that you might taste, or even strong smells and the images that come up, right? Those are pretty powerful. And hopefully if you did that part of it outside of this session, and then the lemon, you will hopefully experience a sense of, through giggles or just how hard it is to say it that fast. I know I experienced that. This almost like a disconnect, where then there's more space, and it creates space for there to be less meaning on the word, less attachment to maybe what images came up, or what tastes, or even the feelings of lemon that came up. And so the idea there is to be able to do it, like what Max said, with after you did it with the lemon, doing it with some self-talk, or even a one word that maybe isn't so helpful for you. So that inner dialogue that we all have, that's one way to create a little bit more space and a little bit more acceptance that we all have those thoughts, and it's okay to have them, but how can you create space like that and less attachment, less power to those words? They're just words. And what can you refocus on? So another way to do that is an exercise called Leaves on the Stream that we often do with athletes. And it's both an acceptance and a mindfulness and an imagery exercise. For the sake of time, we didn't have time to do that today, but what we will do is upload a recording of Leaves on the Stream to our website, and you will be able to follow along that exercise at a later date.
Great. Thank you so much, Rachel, for those additions. And do be sure to check out the Leaves on a River audio recording, because that is something that you can use on your own. And that's also going to be an additional nice blend into next week's topic, which is mindful awareness. And so that skill and practice is actually something that can also lead nicely into next week in our conversation. So we look forward to seeing you all next week. And Rachel's going to round us out with our final quote for the webinar today.
Yes, because we like quotes so much, we will be finishing off with the quotes every week. So this one goes like this: accept, then act. Whatever the present moment contains, accept it as if you had chosen it. Always work with it, not against it. This will miraculously transform your whole life. Eckhart Tolle. Thank you for joining us this week, and we hope to see you next week for Mental Training Thursday with the topic, as Mac mentioned, mindful awareness.